All right, let's get our Facebook groups in here before it is time to go. Got our spinning wheels going, 1 and 2. Give it a second to breathe. Coffee brought to you by Lion Coffee Company. Shout out to Patrick. Thank you so much, Patrick, for feeding the obsession that is coffee. Gosh, some macadamia and vanilla flavored today, which is some of the island's best offerings and out there in Hawaii. And welcome in, everybody. It is time for Broncos for breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by today you guys. It's just me. Scott is off doing the whole dad baseball travel thing, so God bless him. That's way more important than a show in Thursday for him, but not for me. I'm here because I'm here, and you guys are here too. So appreciate everybody coming in and talking a little ball this with me this Thursday morning. Again, off season, running solo. We won't go a full hour, but as long as you guys are bringing it in the chat, we will keep on keeping on. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ESPN releasing the rankings of the best cornerbacks and safeties in the NFL recently. So it's a poll gathered by Jeremy Fowler, who works for ESPN, does a great job for ESPN. So shout out to Mr. Fowler there. And compiling a top 10 list of the best positional rankings compiled from players, executives, coaches, and scouts. So I think it's significantly better than any ranking like the NFL Top 100 or NFL 100. That's trash. It's fun to talk about, but it is trash all the same. And I think also better than, any PFF rankings as well. We do, I will not totally bat for PFF, but I think they do an okay job. It's hard to compile football data because it just is. Every single thing is so intricate and nuanced, but it's not like baseball where you have amazing statistical analysis that you can do with the sample size and a bunch of other reasons. But Jeremy Fowler comes out with this list every year, and a lot of fun to talk about. We can get into it. I also saw, I think, that the linebackers came out as well here recently, and I saw tight ends. So as far as I know, no Broncos on that list. It is ESPN Plus, but as far as I know, I don't think Josie Jewell or Greg Dulcich made the top 10 for either his list, or Alex Singleton. But we'll see. If you guys know any different, please let me know. But let's say hello to people in the chat. We already got some supers coming in here. Let's get to the supers first. They get a cut to the head of the line. Sorry, it's just how it is. David Cromwell, good to see you, David. He says, even with a highly suspect defensive line and edge room, why do you think the Broncos are more likely to win 7-8 games than 3-4 games this season? Because they won 5 games last season, and they were an absolute bleep show of a team, top to bottom, coaching, the power dynamic in the locker room, injuries, one game score luck. It is going to take an unprecedented level of bad luck, I think, to finish with only 3-4 wins this season. Just from, they could have had Nathaniel Hackett back this season, and I think it's probably still not super likely they're just a 3-4 win team. But you throw in Sean Payton and a guy who knows what he's doing as far as just competency of running an NFL team. I think 3-4 is highly unlikely. 7-8, also just from statistical speaking, you're more likely to go 7-8 in general, right? Like that's just the oddities of that. It's in the middle of the bell curve. So 7-8 is far more likely than 3-4 this season, and that is outside of the context of the Broncos spending crazy money this offseason. Improve Sean Payton, improving just natural regression in these likely natural progression in areas that were bad luck for the Broncos last season. Even though I am pretty concerned about the defensive front, offensive line is going to be better. Offensive play calling is going to be better. Run game should be significantly better. I think the depth in the secondary looks pretty darn good. Excited about the second level of the defense. The linebackers there. So defensive front, not great, but I think other areas are going to be better. So thank you so much, David, for the $5. Hope you're doing well. We appreciate you coming in and supporting the show. Troy Bauer coming in here saying, hey, Nick. Hey, Troy, hope you're doing well. Said, don't want to bore people who know, but would love to hear your background on how you became a mainstay at MHH. Not bored. You're giving me a chance to talk about me. That's my favorite subject. No, honestly, it was NFL draft stuff, and I think it was Chad or Eric Trickle. Shout out to Eric, good friend of mine now. But he was posting something on Facebook, like a mock draft or positions, and I was like, I don't believe this player is worth that slot or something like that on Facebook. And gave a whole bunch of analysis on why they didn't fit the scheme exactly, and the valuation of like traits and the tools based on where the NFL is going, blah, 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 blah. Chad then found me on Facebook, DM'd me and said, "Hey, do you write for anybody? I don't recognize you." I'm like, "No, I'm just, love ball." And he said, "Would you like to write for us and make a little money?" I'm like, "Well, that beats writing and not making a little money." So long story short, that's how Chad found me. I believe it was would have been about, gosh, November 2017? November 2016? November 2016. It would have been the Garrett Bowles draft, before the Garrett Bowles draft. So yeah, I've watched a lot of bad Broncos football since then, unfortunately. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Chad found me on Facebook as I was commenting on something, and he said, "Hey, you know what you're talking about." I guess I must have given off that persona. I fooled him, and here I am today. So I don't know. I really enjoy the live streams kind of thing. It's a little easier to stretch my legs. The writing is a little bit more lucrative, but you guys, gosh, the $9.99 coming in here just for me talking ball, it is a dream. So thank you so much, Troy, for coming in, and now you know a little bit more about me. We got Kevin Gray in here. Good morning, Broncos country. Big mile high salute to Nick, Broncos country. Good to see you. He also says our secondary is very good. I worry there isn't enough depth and hope the injury bug stays away. I mean, you're definitely right about that. It's true for pretty much every team, right? If you have a superstar at a spot and you lose your superstar, guess what? Not going to be as good. But yeah, if Patrick Surtain, knock on, do I even have any wood here? This looks like wood. Yeah, that feels like wood. If the Broncos lose Patrick Surtain for any sort of time, down goes the ship. So hopefully that's one that, going back to David's question, how do you win 4 or 5 games? You lose Surtain, then that becomes more probable, unfortunately. But not going to happen. We're not allowing it. We're manifesting greatness today. Jeremy Sean, morning, Nick. Dog days of summer clearly here. Yeah, I'm going to be enjoying it. Dog's hopefully okay upstairs. Cristiano, good morning. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. He also has a question here. With camp a couple weeks away, is Dalton Reisner's stock low enough for to be comfortable coming back at a low price as depth? Gosh, you have to think that bridge is burnt, right? It's such the fact that he's still out there, but that'd be really a tail between the legs, kind of tucked back. I mean, I'd welcome him back because there's no such thing as having too much depth. I'd love him to come back and compete at center as well, if that's something he'd be amenable to. But I'm really concerned about the Broncos' interior offensive line depth in general, with Luke Wattenberg and Alex Forsyth like your main guys. Maybe Cam Fleming ends up being a really good guard there, but I don't think the interior depth is great. And to bring in Reisner back for cheap would be fine with me, especially if he's going to come in and compete. I think Grubbs is fine, but just get the best 3 of the interior out there. And maybe that does involve Reisner somewhere. But I don't know. I think he struggled last season. There's a reason he's still out there. And hopefully he lands on his feet because he does, despite the whole Brett Rippon sideline incident, does seem like a pretty good guy. So pulling for him. Zach Powers, morning. Good to see you. We got our guy Philip Hagginson. Good to see you. Says morning, Nick. Good to see you, Phil. We got Austin. Said been a while since I've been the pod live. Well, you're here now. Hello, Nick. Hello, Austin. Good to see you. Got our guy Michael Ronquillo saying good morning, Nick. I'm Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Thank you so much. Aki Dragon says, Nick, do you have the best secondary among 5 and 12 teams? Probably. Yeah, probably. I don't even know who is in that list, but you got some pretty darn good players. It's other aspects of the roster that are not so good. You can't really have just a no-fly zone with nothing else around them. No-fly zone doesn't tickle unless you have a Von Miller and a Wade Phillips and everything else going on there. Dom Harmios saying, good morning, Nick and Broncos country. Good to see you, Dom. Tyler watching us coming in here saying that's what's good. Not everything's good. Appreciate you. Happy Thursday. Roy Osborne, good morning, Nick. Having a breakfast blend of coffee. That sounds good. I can smell it from here. Good to see you, Roy. Appreciate the shout out on Twitter the other day, too. Jamal Killins, hello. Good to see you. Wang Chung says, time stand Nick since he's alone. Yeah, well, appreciate that. Yeah, I am all alone, but appreciate you guys. Click the thumbs up on the way in. We got Bama X also coming in saying good morning, Nick and Broncos country. And I think we're all cut up in the chat. So that's going to be the show today. No, I'm just kidding. So we're going to talk a little bit of the Jeremy Fowler list coming in here. And the first one I want to get in here is the cornerback rankings. So this is best cornerbacks in the NFL ranked by league executives, players, scouts, and coaches, brought to you by Jeremy Fowler on ESPN. So shout out to him. And number one overall, we have Patrick Surtain II, which God bless. He should be number one overall. It's great to see him. And in the article written about Patrick Surtain, it says that, quote, complete corner, physical, tall, versatile. One high-ranking NFL official told Fowler about Surtain. He's a true matchup guy versus the best players. Premium ability on press or off coverage. Outstanding open field tackler. Solid ball skills. Plays with confidence. Really, really smart and plays disciplined so he doesn't give anything away. So Patrick Surtain, number 1. It was pretty funny, I guess, to follow the other day. I don't know if you guys caught it on Twitter and the socials, but like Asante Samuel and Darrelle Revis and Sauce Gardner kind of getting at each other yesterday because of the New York hype machine, which if you guys are as old as me, you definitely remember the New York hype machine bringing up a corner and pushing down another cornerback back about 10 years ago during the Darrelle Revis, Champ Bailey days. Darrelle Revis's peak was about as good as any cornerback we've ever seen, but it did not sustain excellence like we saw from Champ Bailey. So give me Champ all day. Darrelle Revis still great, though. Don't get me wrong. So yeah, it's Patrick Surtain, number 1, ranking out that rest of that list. Pretty good names here. Cornerback's a young man's position, so not surprising. But we have Sauce Gardner coming in number 2. I think those are the number 1 and number 2 for most lists last season. Other than, I think the AP poll had Darius Slay as first team All-Pro rather than Sauce Gardner. So Darius Slay also had a great year. The top 5 here, I don't think I can argue the order, but not the players in the top 5. So number 1, Surtain. Number 2, Gardner. Number 3, Jalen Ramsey, who has lost a step somewhat, but I think he's going to be pretty darn good with the Dolphins this year with Vic Fangio there. And the Dolphins have a pretty interesting, talented defensive front now as well. I mean, they have 3 first-round talents on that defensive line, so Ramsey on the back end will be fun as well. Obviously, Chubb is there, but I mean, their best player on the defensive line is probably Christian Wilkins. He's been phenomenal. Really underrated player, but Christian Wilkins been good. And they also have Jalen Phillips, the other edge rusher there. So interesting to see what the Dolphins do this year. They have a fun defense. Number 4, Jair Alexander for the Packers. Number 5, Darius Slay. I maybe would have Darius Slay higher just because he was phenomenal last season, but that doesn't really matter too much. Marlon Humphrey, 6. Marshawn Lattimore, 7. Should I say the teams? You guys let me know. Marlon Humphreys for the Ravens. Saints, Marshawn Lattimore, 7. Cowboys, Trevon Diggs, 8. Number 9 is the Browns' Denzel Ward. And number 10, A.J. Terrell of the Falcons. So we do have some honorable mentions as well. Xavier Howard for the Dolphins. J.C. Horn for the Panthers, who, if you guys recall, Panthers took him 1 pick before the Broncos took Patrick Surtain. So J.C. Horn's been good. He's had injury issues more so, but he's been really, really good as well. The next one on the honorable mentions is Tariq Woolen from the Seahawks. Broncos took De'Aaron Turner-Yell 1 pick before Tariq Woolen. I think we were on the live stream screaming to take Tariq Woolen, but that's beside the point. But he looks really good there. An absolute freaky athlete. Not asked to do too much in that scheme, but still, I mean, the level of athleticism, what he showed rookie year for a 5th-round pick. Damn good get for the Seahawks, unfortunately. Especially 1 pick before the Broncos, or 1 pick after the Broncos, but whatever. That last year's draft class, not looking so good. Bills, Tre'Davious White coming in there as well. And then L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs. So you guys let me know what you think about the cornerback rankings there. I do think I don't sit here and break down every single cornerback in the league, but Patrick Surtain is phenomenal. Obviously, last year he had the slight dip in performance in 5 quarters-ish, where there was that game where the Broncos were just obliterated, beaten to a pulp, smash hammered by the Panthers. That game sucked, and DJ Moore got Patrick Surtain a few times. The whole team just looked like absolute butt in that game in Charlotte last season. And then also Devontae Adams had a really good game against him as well. So Surtain, what can we do to keep that number 1 ranking? I think that you hope going forward, you can have a little bit more plays on the football. I think that's the big argument people have for Sauce Gardner over Patrick Surtain, is that Sauce had incredible ball production last season. Now, a lot like sacks, ball production can be pretty volatile year to year. So I wouldn't expect Sauce Gardner to continue to have that level of ball production. But hopefully Surtain can pick his up a little bit, and hopefully that'll come with just better overall offense on the Broncos side of the ball, forcing the opposing team to be a little bit more aggressive and risky with the passing game. Teams the last, 8 years have been able to essentially do what we saw in the movie reference here in The Waterboy in the Bourbon Bowl, where they essentially are just kneeling the football with time left on the clock just to keep the defense at bay. Now, that's obviously an exaggeration, but teams have been able to play chicken bleep kind of football because they had such little respect for the Broncos offense that they didn't have to put the ball in harm's way. They could just, take the air out of the ball, so to speak. And eventually that would lead to a win because the Broncos offense was that inept and pathetic and sad and just terrible. So hopefully it'll be better this season, and that will result in more risky plays from opposing teams' passing games, and that can result in more ability for Surtain to make plays on the football. There are a few caveats around that, though, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Already touched on it today. I might be as low on the defensive line this season as anybody. I do like DJ Jones a good bit. I think he's a solid B player. I think Zach Allen is a B player as well if he can stay healthy. Randy Gregory is a B plus if he's on the field. But after that, though, I mean, I think Frank Clark's probably a C plus kind of talent at this point. Baron Browning's probably a C minus if he can stay healthy. A lot of upside there, but haven't seen it enough yet. Jonathan Cooper's probably for like your first edge rusher off the bench, maybe a C minus to D plus level. I mean, I would prefer him as a 4 rather than a 3, but he's fine. And then the interior defensive line depth is booty. It's not good, at least what we've seen so far. So that can change. Obviously, a lot of these guys are going to get an opportunity in training camp, preseason, but right now the defensive line is not good. And like I said, I think on Tuesday night show, everybody talks about the no-fly zone and having Surtain and the Simmons. You could replicate that. No-fly zone doesn't exist without Von Miller, right? And Derek Wolfe and Shane Ray and DeMarcus Ware and Malik Jackson and Shaq Barrett. I mean, the waves of the pass rush up front, the no-fly zone doesn't exist without them. So you can have good secondary this season for the Broncos, and plays on the ball for Surtain to keep him at that number 1 spot. But I don't know if you have the ability to put pressure up front with the horses you have. I don't see any pure matchup winners up front. They're going to have to be schemed pressure this season. So good luck, Vance Joseph. We'll see how that works out. The other thing is, other elephant in the room for Surtain keeping that number 1 is the cornerback opposite him. When you are as good as Surtain is, teams don't throw at you. Instead, they're going to schematically target other coverage players in the field, trying to isolate linebackers. Yes, that teams do that a lot. And I think there's probably one linebacker in the entire NFL that you feel okay about in space and coverage, and that's Fred Warner. The other ones, guess what? Every once in a while, tight ends, running backs, slot receivers are going to get matched up against a linebacker, and it's going to look ugly. But point to me the non-Fred Warner coverage linebackers that exist. Please find out for me. They don't exist. That's just the reality of the NFL and those type of athletes. So teams are going to probably target opposite Surtain a lot. And the big area where this could be a problem is that if Damari Mathis struggles this season, doesn't take a step forward, kind of turns into what we saw his first game last season where he had, 4 pass interferences or something insane. If Riley Moss isn't the guy, if somebody else doesn't step forward, then Surtain is going to be obviously beneficial to have on the opposite side, but he's just not going to get a lot of chances to make plays on the football because teams are going to target the other cornerback. So cornerback 2, probably the most interesting battle in position to watch for me entering training camp and preseason, because with Surtain on one side, you got to be able to be good on the other side and really, clamp things down, force them to go through Surtain from time to time. But right now, I think teams will try to avoid it. So we'll see how that works out. Let me know what you guys think as well. I'm going to give it a second to comments to breathe as well, just kind of going through the data and talking about it. And let me know, can Surtain stay at number 1? Was anybody overlooked here? I probably would have had Tariq Woolen in the top 10 as well, maybe dropping out. AJ Terrell. AJ Terrell was not as good last season. Tariq Woolen was pretty darn good. But yeah, Surtain number 1, awesome. Really deserving. Great pick. And probably the best cornerback in the NFL for the next few seasons, probably next 4 seasons. Cornerbacks can fall off a cliff, but he's so technically sound. He's big. He'll be good for a long time. So awesome piece to build around. We got David Bishop in here saying, good morning, Nick. We're all hoping Pookie is ready. Where is Samaji? What is Samaji's game like? Really never watched him. Could he be a Kamara? I don't think he's a Kamara. He is a not super explosive player, but just solid all around. He's one that I think has not, if you were playing him, if he was on Madden, he wouldn't have very high speed or acceleration, but he'd be like, good out of the backfield, good receiver, really good blocker, good contact balance, good vision. He just, I wouldn't say he's a plotter, so to speak. I think he's got a little bit more juice than a pure plotter like we saw from Latavius Murray last season, who just, as soon as he got touched, he'd fall forward 2 yards. Absolutely no wiggle to that man's game anymore. But I think he's got a little bit more wiggle and juice, but he's just an overall player, good across the board. He's like that guy in school. He gets straight B's for Samaje. So he'll be a good number 2, somebody that you can go a number of directions with him. I'm just not expecting a lot of juice from him. I don't expect the explosives, but that's okay. If your offensive line is solid and you can be a well-rounded player, you can be very, very effective and impactful as a running back. And I think that's what Samaje's game is. I liked him a lot coming out of Oklahoma. Runs tough too. I really like the toughness that he brings. He's going to play hard, and somebody that, he'll be that hammer against that rock. Hopefully just split it eventually. Jeremy comes in like food. I hate my rankings over Sauced. I think Sauce at number 2 is fine. He was incredible last season, and also seems like a really fun person as well. So, and a good person. So pulling for him, but I'll take Surtain right now. Gary Palmer coming in $9.99 saying good morning, Nick. Thanks for the bio. Good stuff. Go Broncos and buck 'em. You're welcome. Next, if you guys tune in next Tuesday, I'll give you my mother's maiden name, street address I was born on, and last 4 of the socials, right? That'll be the next question here. But for Super, maybe we'll talk. Appreciate that coming in here. We also got yelling for Woolen. Yeah, that was unfortunate. Hopefully it doesn't turn out as unfortunate as the Broncos taking Jake Butt before George Kittle, who I saw was the number 2 ranked tight end. But what can you do? We got Roy Osborne saying I believe it's pretty close. I think he's talking about Sauce versus Surtain. I mean, be over the moon to have either of them. Cristiano coming in saying, I thought PS2 and Simmons rankings were spot on. Yeah, they were pretty good. We'll talk a little bit about Simmons here in just a second. Oh, we got Troy coming in. I guess I don't really actually need the headphones, do I? I'm by myself. I unplugged it by accident. I'm like, hey, what's going on here? See the headphones? What are the chances Moss starts? Well, now I feel weird. Now I feel naked. What are the chances Moss starts by the end of the year? I think there's a good chance that he's starting by the end of the year in some sort of fashion. And the unfortunate reason that you can bake that in is injuries. Somebody is probably going to get hurt. I think there is some optimism that somebody like a Damari Mathis could play some slot as well. I know saying Bassie right now is probably the first guy off the bench for the slot, but if you're trying to get your best 4 out there, maybe it is Mathis in that slot spot with Moss outside, followed by Surtain. But injury could happen. I think there's a good chance we see Moss in a pretty darn solid role by the end of the year. But he's got to show the ability to play in a multitude of coverages. Iowa just kind of played a lot of press and bail, keep things in front. It's a reason that he had so many plays on the football, because he could have his eyes in the backfield and trigger downhill. Going to be a little bit probably more reactive and versatile in scheme assignments in the NFL. So it will be fun to follow this season. Moss versus Mathis at that cornerback 2 spot. I like them both. I really like them. Bama comes in. It's to be interested in Mathis sliding in the slot corner, having Moss on the outside. Certainly a possibility. There's also a chance that Moss could maybe play safety as well, or Mathis could play safeties. A lot of these guys are being more versatile on their asks in the back end, and tackling is at a premium, especially in those quick hitter pass games. Dominique Martin, what's up, Broncos family? Much love to y'all. I'm HH for life. Shout out to Nick. Shout out to you, Dominique. We appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. We got Keith coming in saying, sorry late to the show. Good morning. Good to see you, Keith. Thank you so much. Austin H comes in and say, Nick, who is the most overrated and underrated player on the team? This is tough because you really didn't give me much of a chance to prepare for this one. Underrated player. I would probably... It might be Josie Jewell, just because the conversation around him is pretty unrealistic. People are wanting, again, just the conversation we talked about earlier. Find me the coverage linebacker outside of Fred Warner. Doesn't exist. Really. I mean, just don't find him out there. And Josie Jewell's really solid when he's out there. So I think he's not amazing by any mean, but people talk about him like he's just like horrible. And he's not. He's an above average linebacker starter. Underrated / underappreciated. I think what DJ Jones does well. Obviously, earlier I said he's a B-level player, but you need a DJ Jones on your team on the defensive line. So he's very good. Overrated? I don't want to be negative. Overrated player. I guess for me, overrated would have to do with guys who we have hyped up that we haven't seen enough yet to really lean on and trust. And somebody like that who would, to me, would be overrated would be Caden Stearns. Now, that's not a shot at Caden Stearns. The flashes are awesome, but he's been hurt, and your best ability is availability. We have not seen it from him. So I think he's a little bit overrated right now, but he could be properly rated. Just, again, I'm a little bit more cautious on waiting and seeing on that front. The other one who I think is a little bit overrated right now, and I'm another guy who love the upside, hoping for greatness from him, but right now has a lot to work on. And that is Quinn Miners. I think Quinn Miners is a great run blocker, a really good athlete, has a lot of splash plays, but his pass protection is not great right now. Not great last season. A few little bit olays as the guy goes around him. So those are two guys who I'm hoping, take a step forward and improve some of those things this upcoming season. Still good players. Really like them both. Happy they're on the Broncos, but I feel like the conversation surrounding them from Broncos country is a little bit cart before the horse, I guess, so to speak. Underrated also last season, Cam Fleming. Cam Fleming, probably the team's best run blocker last year. Had some deficiencies, got had by Max Crosby a few times, which point to me the tackle that didn't. And the conversation for him versus Calvin Anderson last season had me feel like I was taking gosh darn crazy pills. I just did not, watching the tape, I just did not understand what people were coming from with that one, but I digress. Quentin coming in here saying, good morning, everybody. Been busy handling business. Well, make sure you have your business socks on while you're busy handling business. Flight of the Conchords reference there if you guys didn't recognize that. But fun show, HBO, if you haven't had a chance to watch it. Keith Brugman comes in and says, this secondary could be the best in the league if the defensive line can get pressure on the quarterback. If, right? If Randy Gregory can stay healthy, if Baron Browning can come back, if Frank Clark can play like he did 2 years ago, if somebody on the interior defensive line can emerge, if DJ Jones can become, continue being a stalwart, if Zach Allen can show what he did last season and stay healthy, just the ifs on the defensive front are one after the other. Everything breaks. You could talk about a top 12 defensive line. Really, I mean, Randy Gregory's got that talent. Baron Browning has a lot of talent. Frank Clark, a really good vet, but there's just way too many ifs that have to hit for me to feel comfortable about that unit. So a little concerning there for me. Lawrence coming in here saying underrated player would be Tim Patrick. Overrated player on the defense, Randy Gregory. I feel like he just can't. Is Randy Gregory rated? Because you can't depend on him. He's not out there. So I guess the flashes are that good. I mean, they really are. He's like, if you give me Randy Gregory's top 10 plays, you can put him up there with like the top 10 edge rushers in football. Honest to God. I mean, the athleticism and the body type package is unreal, but he's not out there. He's hurt. So yeah, I guess that does make him somewhat overrated because you can't depend on him. Tim Patrick is underrated. Very good player. I feel like he's not underrated by Broncos country, but underrated by the NFL media, the NFL landscape, fan bases as a whole. Kind of an unknown player, but just solid. Every team loves to have themselves a Tim Patrick if he's out there. Russ could be both. Yeah, good question. Underrated Jonas Griffith, overrated Russell Wilson. Hate me now. No hate for you, Keith. We appreciate you. We got Quentin saying, oh yeah, it's business time. I saw Flight of the Conchords live a few times. Very, very fun one to see. Oh, Bruce with a comment here. Here's underrated. And the fact that I didn't even bring him up shows how underrated he is. Quan Williams was phenomenal last season. I know he plays a spot that, you can pay pennies on the dollar to find good players, but man, his physicality from the slot was incredible. I'm still fuming last season. He was ejected or had that personal foul for pushing through a block into a player on a screen. There was some play where he got a penalty and it's like, this is the most BS I've ever seen in my life for a football play. That one, I'm mad now, Bruce. Thanks. But no, absolutely, Quan Williams, underrated. I don't know about overrated Justin Simmons, but we'll get into that here. Coming in here, we have the the safety rankings here. And we have Justin Simmons falling from number 1 to number 3 overall in the rankings from the 10 best safeties from executives, players, coaches, and scouts. Steelers, Minkah Fitzpatrick takes number 1. Derwin James takes number 2. We have Justin Simmons at number 3. Budda Baker at 4 for the Cardinals. Javon Holland for the Dolphins at 5. Jesse Bates for the Falcons at 6. Titans, Kevin Byard. We got Lions, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at 8. 49ers, rookie last season, Talanoa Hufanga at 9. Really fun player. And then Antoine Winfield for the Bucks at 10. Honorable mentions, the Seahawks, Quandre Diggs, who probably should be up there. He's been really good for the Seahawks. Ravens have Marcus Williams, Kyle Duggar for the Patriots, Jordan Poyer at the Bills, Micah Hyde for the Bills. Both been really good safeties. Xavier McKinney for the Giants and Jalen Petrie for the Texans. Also a rookie out there. Really, really like Jalen Petrie last season. Mocked him to the Broncos a good bit. Looking for that like dimebacker type slot safety with the ability to come down and play slot. But there's your top 10. And why did Justin Simmons fall a bit? We have a little bit here from ESPN's article, again from Jeremy Fowler. It's ESPN Plus, and since Scott's not here, I didn't have access to it, but still able to find some stuff. It says, quote, Simmons lost his grip on the number 1 ranking, but is still in the top 3 for most vote getters. He's the classic post safety with range. He has been an Iron Man type before 2022, missing 0 games the previous 4 years combined until last season. And we have a quote here from an exec saying, an assistant coach, saying, I saw a little drop off, maybe because of the thigh injury, but he's still an elite player. Coverage skills and football intelligence are very high. I mean, the ability that he had to take the football away last season, despite missing games, despite the Broncos having defunct pass rush up front, despite the Broncos having an absolute garbage patch of an excuse of an offense, that was the ability to take the football the way he did was really good. Now, is he, the best safety of all time? No, he does have some limits. He's not super duper physical. Coming downhill is not a, wood layer, so to speak. He's also not an absolutely incredible blazing athlete, but he can do a little bit of everything really well. And the length and intelligence that he plays with is, some of the best in the league, in my opinion. So I think Justin Simmons has been a very good player for the Broncos. He's another one who would benefit greatly from having a better offense the opposite side and having better pass rush up front. But really good. I'm not too upset that he falls from 1 to 3 because Minkah Fitzpatrick and Derwin James are really, really talented. They also have the first round pedigree, much more college draft hype than Justin Simmons, who fell to the very end of the 3rd round. I believe it was a 3rd round comp pick. So Simmons falling to 3. I get it. I would take any of the top 3 here that are listed. I think they do a good job with that. After that, I think there's clearly a line between Budda Baker's Devon Holland and Jesse Bates, and then a line again for Byard, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Hufanga, and Winfield. But top 3 for Justin Simmons, it makes sense. Hopefully he can continue to take the ball away at a good level this upcoming season and can stay healthy. But really, really excited to have the Broncos have these 2 players. They also not only seem to be very talented on the field, but they also very much seem like guys who are mature and faces of the franchise, guys who are not out here doing stupid things on and off the field. So happy to have both those guys dialed in, and hopefully for both their sakes, Broncos can field a competent team and play some meaningful December football games this year, because it really just feels like such a freaking waste to have players of that caliber just, having to sit there on Christmas and having Patrick Starr clown your quarterback and getting beat, 59 to the 2 or whatever it doesn't even matter. A billion to -2 on Christmas on the slime game. So hopefully the team can turn around this year and be better for them overall. So let's see who we got in here. We're already at 30 minutes, so we're probably going to start to wrap it on up here. I got starts a little bit more sore today, so hopefully it's okay. Unless we got super chats coming in, then I will tough through it. But we got Quentin coming in here saying, I hope everyone is doing okay with all the heat everywhere. Not to get too dark, but I saw, what was it? We had like the hottest day in recorded Earth history. Now, how far back does that go? Well, I don't need to get on a pedestal here or anything, but we'll see how the years progress. But scary times. I saw also BC had like some ridiculous amount of wildfires start up this last year from this last weekend from dry lightning. So could be a really, really smoky, hot, dark summer. So hopefully not, but we'll see. Scary times, without a doubt. We got Michael coming in saying Patrick Surtain will mentor Riley Moss, the rookie part of the NFL. Is Patrick Surtain the mentoring type at this point? I mean, entering year 3, is he really the take him under his wing and mentor? I mean, those guys should like be following him and be Surtain's shadow, but I don't want Surtain to be out there, being the veteran that's, spending as much time coaching as he is working on his own craft. I want him to continue to work on his own craft, and you have your own really great tutor in tutor in Christian Parker, who's probably destined for a defensive coordinator spot next year, but he's one of the best defensive backs coaches in the NFL. So I don't know if you need, other than, watching how he prepares and stuff, I don't know if you need Surtain to do any more than just work on his own game. But definitely having him as an example is not a bad thing. Brandon Williamson, I think 49ers safety is the 4th with Baker at 5. Hufanga is awesome, but he is a cover 3 hole player. Coming downhill, physical, that's great. In your match quarters era of football that we're in right now, the 49ers played a lot of cover 3 last season. A lot of buzz cover 3 too, but he has a very specific role. Like comparing him to Kevin Byard is like comparing two different positions completely. So Hafanga's really good, but I wouldn't rank him as high because I feel like his niche is very specific and limited. He would not fit in every defense. Well, he would, because players who are smart, instinctual, and physical fit any defense, but he had limitations if you were asking him to play much more split safety fields. He's better coming downhill and playing in the box, being physical in that way. We also have Austin come in and say, Nick, you like this? Underrated is Jordan Walker. Oh, talking about the Cardinals. Sorry, go Reds. Cardinals did have a good first rounder, though. Cardinals stink right now. I don't even. What is the Cardinals? Don't pay attention to that. Don't pay attention to the hats behind me. We'll block that one out. But not great. Jeremy comes in and says, Simmons is good, but he's only one of the Broncos rated elite. Also talks about him getting burnt a lot. He doesn't have a physical tackle, but he does do a pretty good job coming down and filling the gaps. That's a lot. Safeties, a lot of times, you just got to be in the right spot and not get burnt. When you come in an alley and you miss, it's a low light, but every team has those from the safeties. So excited to see what Simmons can do this year. We've got Lawrence Rivera coming in. I believe these are stars. Don't have Scott here on the Facebook side running at the same time. So I'm just going to assume. Thank you for support, Lawrence. We also got Michael Ronquillo saying, great show today, Nick. On Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Appreciate you so much. Guys, we're at 36 minutes. I think I'm going to have to start to wrap it on up here. It's dog days of summer. And again, my voice is starting to get a little bit. So appreciate everybody coming in. If you are curious, tell me where you guys would rank these players as well. Hit me up on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH. Let me know also if you think these, honestly, these are probably going to be the only Broncos players that are ranked in the top 10. Is there anybody else who'd be worth it? I mean, it's going through the list in my head right now. If Javonte Williams didn't get hurt, maybe there'd be a discussion for him in the running back spot, but right now you can't do that. Definitely not Russell Wilson after last season. He won't be there. None of the wide receivers. Definitely none of the offensive linemen, unless they go like best. Maybe you'd see a chance to have Powers ranked in the top guards, but other than that, I don't see it. So, woof, that's not great. That's one of the reasons the Broncos have been so poor here. But I digress. I don't think McGlinchey would be in there in the top tackles because they'd probably, if you're looking at top 10 right tackles, maybe, but I don't think they would do that. I do think Powers could make it in the top 10 guards, though. So that's one that maybe would make it as well. But we'll see. Maybe we could have, oh gosh, his name's escaping me right now. The punter, Broncos punter, who they just brought in. I keep thinking Riley Dixon. Maybe he's a top 10 punter. But other than that is a good one. Zach Allen, underrated. The thing about Zach Allen is that he could be underrated, but he's living off one season right now where he was very good, and he's had a lot of injuries. So, or missed a lot of time for a first contract player when he was with the Cardinals, missed a good amount of time with injuries. So he could blow up the season and totally change the perspective on the Broncos defensive line and the ability to get after the quarterback with his versatility, inside-outside ability. But right now, he's just got to play healthy. So going to be interesting to watch and see what he looks like. And Cushenberry, number one of the worst centers in the league. Hopefully he'll be better this year, surrounded by more anchoring ability with Powers next to him and an improvement from Miners at right guard in the pass blocking department. But Cushenberry has struggled, so hopefully he can do a better job just anchoring, man. Just don't get blown up and pushed back into the quarterback's lap immediately. Especially, you're going to get – teams know Cushenberry is a liability in terms of the ability to drop the anchor. So I think a lot of teams are going to use stunts and twists and delayed blitzes and try to get defensive tackles one-on-one with Cushenberry. A lot of times, people talk about the center position and being a double team position, so you don't have to worry about that as much. But if you are as bad at anchoring as Cushenberry is, teams are going to, especially on money downs, try to get it where Cushenberry is lined up against a specific defensive tackle and isolating him where a linebacker or an edge or safety or somebody comes down and peels away a guard. So Cushenberry is in a one-on-one versus a much stronger defensive tackle and just probably getting pushed back into the quarterback's lap. But we'll see. Maybe it's better this year. Especially with you have Powers next to him, is 330 at guard. So it should make a difference compared to Reisner, who was good pass protector, but very finesse. So a little bit more power, a little bit more meat up front, without a doubt. But guys, that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate everybody coming in and dropping the super chats. I saw David Carmelo, Troy Bauer, Gary Palmer. We appreciate you coming in here. Lawrence Rivera, obviously Michael Ronquillo as well. Appreciate everybody coming in. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. I'm at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also follow us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says here underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. If you haven't done so yet, please click a thumbs up on the way out. We'd really appreciate that. I know it's the dog days of summer. These shows will definitely pick up more as the season gets closer, as we got more information coming in. But we're still here hanging out, and we appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out as well. If you guys have anything for me, hit me up on Twitter, like I said, at Nick Kendell, MHH. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Continue to choose kindness and compassion. And as always, go Broncos.